Hi everyone, Richard here from Clever Endeavour Games, and I'm at CGX, the Canada Gaming Expo in Ottawa Conference Centre, and I just want to do a quick check-in and walk around the expo floor a little bit, show you what we're seeing, and talk a little bit about the cool stuff that I've learned at some of the talks. So, heading into the expo floor, the first thing we see here are these awesome squish candies, and I'm going to go ahead and take one, and they're super awesome, and you should all try them. Alrighty, moving along. Whole bunch of games. There's some really cool stuff. There's some children, and there's this cool game by Skyspire called The Blobs Fight, where players jump on each other and try and squish each other. Not sure if it'll record the screen all that well, but super fun local multiplayer game. Of course, there's King of the Hat. We know our friends from Hieroglyphic Games, King of the Hat, and does Ben want to say hi from King of the Hat?
Hey, from King of the Hat.
Woo! Party time. There's this old school pinball area where they have some old pinball machines. So coming on over here, we have Eden Rising from Invisio, and it's an open world co-op tower defense, awesome, super cool game, and they're cool people. There's an old school gaming area where they have Super Smash Bros. on GameCube, and I think there's some N64s and stuff hanging out. Pretty cool. There's some people doing funky VR stuff, as there is at expos. There's of course the infinite amount of Funko Pop figures that expos must have. And moving on over here, there's some super cool laser cut awesome coasters from these folks at Hipster Lasers. Some more merch and t-shirts and things. Over here we've got Spectrum Break, which is a super cool game where you're kind of like a little snowboarding thing dude that jumps on Tetris blocks to try to light them up. Very, very cool game. There's some awesome baked goods. Alrighty, so I'm back in my sort of quiet spot where I was before, and wanted to talk a little bit about the stuff that I learned here. So I had my talk yesterday actually. I talked about a little bit the history of Ultimate Chicken Horse, where it started, and basically answered a bunch of the questions that people from the community or other game developers tend to ask us. So that was my talk, and that was yesterday, and there were a bunch of really cool talks, so I have some notes written down here. There were some good talks, one from Tanya Short from Kid Fox Games, who, if you follow our Twitter, you've probably seen us interacting with them. She talked about creative direction and how to try to be a good creative director. Now, our company doesn't have one specific creative director per se, but we should all learn what our strengths and weaknesses are about in creative direction, of course, to be able to become better as a team and better gel and better have a focused vision. So there was that. There was a good talk about art direction, which I'm clearly not the art director, but it was good to hear what the artists had to say. And some of the questions afterwards brought up some interesting points about how people who are managing artists or trying to keep the vision of a game together are able to work well with the artists. There was, what else was there? A creativity panel that was really cool, where people talked about their creative process, when they get the most inspired, what they need to do to be inspired, if they keep their desks super clean or super dirty, which was a pretty interesting, more like a confession, like a bunch of confessions in a row rather than actually advice, but that was really cool. There's also a talk about culture change from one of the game directors at Warner Brothers, and that was pretty cool because he talked about how you can create a good culture in your studio, of course, but also as a leader, how you should treat employees and how you should treat other leaders in order to make sure everyone's performing their best and you're not stepping on anybody's toes. I also just had some good talks with other developers about making games, about design, about marketing, about creativity, about all sorts of things. And it's been really cool and inspirational. I think it was a really good thing that I came here, and cool stuff to learn, cool stuff to share back with the team when I get back. And that's about that. I'm gonna head on to another talk, which is about... Now I'm gonna head into another talk. The talk right now is Top 10 Animation Tips for Surviving the Game Industry. So while I'm not an animator, I still find it interesting to learn about this stuff and be able to better communicate with artists about animation. So I'm going to close this.